call anymore, but everyone is present for the current committee members. I guess the first order of business then is an adoption of the agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
I second the motion.
Alrighty, I guess all in favor? Or do we need a roll call vote?
No, don't need
Yeah.
roll call votes anymore.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, I guess that passes then. And then, guys, are there any oral communications?
No, there's no one currently in the Zoom meeting, but I did receive some complete streets related content from Chris Florkowski that we can share later on in the meeting.
All right. Would that be during the staff updates part? I guess new business or?
I think it'll be probably under maybe staff updates.
Okay.
Wonderful. Yeah. All right. In that case, moving on to the minutes from last meeting, which included the liaisons as well as members of the city here. Could we get a motion to approve the minutes if everyone's had a chance to read them?
Motion to approve?
I second the motion.
It's all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion passes then. Minutes have been approved. Moving on to old business, which is the discussion on AB 413 and the assignment. I think we also got some feedback during the last session around sort of this being the top priority and sort of focusing around that and the outreach and sort of the pieces. So maybe I know staff had sent out sort of a spreadsheet and an assignment piece with some additional streets assigned, but given sort of the change as well as maybe this is the right time to take a moment to also thank Greg for his time on the committee, because I think last time we thanked Patrick, and Pat, and this time maybe it's worth thanking Greg and taking a moment to sort of appreciate his contributions over the last year plus, 2 years
Yeah.
plus,
Yeah.
and his departure from the committee. So that maybe,
He will be missed.
yeah, it's worth commenting on that for a second. And so with that, I think maybe the assignments, we should restructure and figure out how we want to do that piece and kind of move forward from here and kind of get some updates.
I have something. It's kind of a question. We're down to 3 committee members right now. I don't know how soon new ones will be sworn in, but I'm wondering if we can kind of take a look at how much territory there is left and figure out about how many more intersections we each need to take on as soon as possible to make sure we meet our deadline.
And complete the project, agreed, yeah.
Yeah.
Christian, any comments before we maybe jump in, maybe get a staff update after, first, anything you want to comment on or add there?
No, I'm fine.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so as far as you guys all had your assignments. As far as what's been done so far, so this was what I presented last meeting. I haven't updated this with the new assigned zones because Linda turned hers in, but the rest haven't been turned in, so I didn't jump to fill out the zones that weren't turned in as if they're completed. But so this is the same as last meeting, and I mean if you can try to visualize the zone that you were assigned. I know this area over here was assigned to Christian, I believe. No, this is to Darius.
I guess I may have missed that part. I should have followed up beforehand, but how was it assigned? I saw the pictures of which zones was their names tagged there. I may have missed that part. Sorry about that.
Oh, what the zones assigned, it was highlighted in one color, what would have been what you had done the previous month, and then in a different color, what I had sent to the committee was what you were assigned for this month. And, then it would have been done this month using those templates that I had provided.
Yeah.
So this is, so we've done more than this than we're seeing right here. I can add what you guys were assigned for May onto this, just because I'm sure it'll get done. But I'd say we're just about finished with Central Brisbane. I mean, Linda pointed this out earlier, but a lot of these upper residential streets are, a lot of them don't require changes. And so those walks are breezes, more or less. But I think as far as getting done with Central Brisbane, we're almost there.
I guess similar with the Ridge, is there a lot of street parking on the Ridge? Is the Ridge going to be quite a large assignment, or is that going to be quite more limited, perhaps?
I drove through it, and it looks like it's pretty much already laid out the way the new law would want it to be, but it was just a drive-through. It needs a better look.
I did a similar brief walk through the industrial part and I had the same, but I had some pictures and follow-up there that I need to follow up on as well. Christian?
So I did, submit what I did. It's not exactly like the template, but I was looking at the template. One question I had is 15 versus 20. I don't know if you wanted. I think you have. I posted on Teams what I did, Thomas.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see if you had said on Teams. I was looking for emails, but I can look at your look at the Teams message. But as far as 15 feet versus 20 feet, so that was going to be when bulb outs are present, and so if there's a bulb out present at an intersection, the distance where parking would be removed was 15 feet instead of 20 feet. So I'm just going to zoom into an example right here on Google Earth because there's one that we did in practice.
Right by the school.
Oh, here's one right here. This is Mariposa, I believe. Yeah. So in this case, as we see right here, where the sidewalk is literally bulbing out into the street versus just a right angle. In this case, I mean, this is the direction of travel over here. In this case, 15 feet of parking would be removed when we have these bulb outs present, and then in other situations, it would be 20 feet.
So in this case, it'd be just the one spot there for 15 feet, probably.
Right. Yeah. That wouldn't even probably affect these other ones over here.
Oh, okay. So I was assigned 6 intersection, and that covered pretty much from Mariposa all the way to Mendocino and to Solano. So, once again, if you take a look at what I did, do they need to be exactly like the template?
I think the template is helpful because it kind of, when I look at them and open them, if they're all presented in the same format, it kind of makes my head not spin versus kind of interpreting what everyone did. I mean, is there anything you would like different about the template, or something you didn't think that was? Are you talking about your first submission?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll fix those. You don't have to redo what you did, but I'm just talking about going forward. What I had sent for May.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah,
Appreciate
yeah,
it, man.
Yeah. I'll be doing. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna fix those. Well, I already started fixing those, but
Yeah.
we'll get those.
All right, cool. So I think in that sense, I knocked down 6. That was a good chunk. So I'm ready for the next section. And this time I will definitely do follow the template.
Yeah. So I guess maybe you and I both had, I guess on this sort of new diagram, the color coding was unclear to me, and maybe I missed the email part of that. But I started doing the industrial part, but it was sort of unclear which one. I guess in this case, this was sort of the expected assignment then for Christian's zone. Is that
So
what
yeah,
we're
for
looking
in this picture right here in the purple is what Christian did the first month, which wasn't in the templates format, but which I'm gonna put into the template format. And then in this orange color, it was the same color for all you guys for the new assignment, but in this orange color is what will be the next zone. And maybe we can expand a little bit, just in the interest of time, maybe add a little bit more. But this orange would be what Christian's doing next, and what he's already done over here. And then for you, Darius, this was your new zone, and your original zone is off in the picture, so it's not shown here. But this would have been the zone to do next.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, I think these are some of the more residential streets up there, and like really the meat of it is down here in central Brisbane, down Visitation, and then some of these are pretty quick.
There's only 1 and 2 intersections up there, anyways. Yeah.
And then so just because we kind of it seems like there was a little bit of confusion, we'll probably maybe to catch up. We'll add a little more, but just in the interest of time.
Maybe I can ask sort of what, after following the sort of the bringing together the data here, is there like a check by anyone else in terms of before the people start painting the streets, or what's the next step beyond that? Is it more of a collation of how many pieces we're going to have to add, or is it just immediately go out and start painting, or what's the sort of process here?
Well, we're reviewing what you turn in as you turn it in, and then we'll probably put it all together and do another review and make sure it's ready to go to a contractor. Some of the interim steps are if we do anything that changes striping, which we are going to do a slurry seal project on some streets some later in June, and then striping has to be put back. So in those cases, we'll do what we did on Lower Visitation and not put it back in those spots and put the barricades out with the signs on them. But then after that, ultimately, we will hire a striping contractor to do all the rest at once. And then police will do their outreach, whether that be little warnings that say starting January, you will get a citation,
And I guess timeline there roughly in terms of when that might be happening for our completion side.
Yeah, we wanted to have everything looked over and ready to go out by fall because it could get an early rainy season. We want to make sure there's enough time to get the striping. And we haven't even really decided how. You've got to grind off the old striping, you know, ideally you're grinding it off, you're putting a slurry seal down. Sometimes if you grind it off, it still looks like there's striping in certain lights and at nighttime, and I don't know if it's going to be perfect, but we definitely want all of that. I mean, it has to be done by the end of the year, but we don't want to be in December because it could be really rainy, you know?
I guess that's sort of the city. I guess the city's doing that no matter what, regardless of sort of our input on that project. Or is it only if we say you got a stripe here, you're doing it here? I guess.
No, we're reviewing it. And then if there's anything that's different than either the 15 or 20, we have to take it to council. That's why we're targeting fall. And they have to make a ruling. So your recommendation, if you guys want, if you want us to circle back on anything that we think is different and discuss, you know, we could do that over the next few months.
Okay.
So is it possible to have like an inventory of all the intersection, and then so far what have we done, and get a sense of, you know, how much is left, and that way we could more or less predict if I get like 6 intersection, and then, you know, there's probably like 20 more, then we have, you know, Darius and Linda, and when is that gonna get done? And then how about Rich, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely make some sort of listed sheet, because I'll agree this doesn't do it complete justice, because I mean it's a solid line, but it's not calling out every single intersection. So we can make a spreadsheet where we are saying kind of like what the template uses, but compiling all it into one spreadsheet where we have every street and every intersection. That would make it easier to track, and then
That'd also help with the impact. Understand how many sort of parking spots maybe are being removed, and what that might help. You know, have sort of wider range, sort of longer term.
That's an excellent point, because, you know, then if you inventory that, then you could just start adding columns and make it a matrix and say, okay, this intersection affects this or impacts this and so forth.
What, like if you've got a curvy street, how are you identifying the approach side of when it's not?
So I think that's when maybe the
obviously north
template
or
was not
west or-
quite as, you know, a little bit, you know, I think there could be multiple ways of looking at it. So how we sort of quantify that T versus that T, and, you know, it's sort of important, I think, to have some of that data figured out maybe as we approach.
I just went with direction.
Yeah.
The
And then sort of
direction
1, 2, 3, a
of
T,
travel would
yeah.
be, you know, either north, south, east, or west. And at that point, if it was heading,
That would be 1, 2, 3, but then you know how many spots are removed within that, yeah.
yeah, it kind of works that way. There's some that kind of make a bend, so I changed it to southeast or something, or southwest as it came up.
Yeah,
and I
that
hope
was
that works.
That was my thought, that it's
Yeah.
it's not exactly a grid. It's not at all a grid. I don't know, I mean, taking it and transferring it to a list seems time consuming. What if it were just on the map, how many spaces were? I think let us work through that. That's something we can talk to propose what we want to do at the next meeting, because I don't want to do a bunch of make work when you may need, if we're not going to get done, if you guys aren't going to get done, we're going to have to go out and spend time on some of these. You know, that's what's going to happen, and staff's going to have to look at some of them too.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt. So, you know, those 6 intersection, it translates to like 16 actual measurements, because, you know, some intersections you're doing 4, some you're doing 2, or some are you doing 3. So it's quite a bit.
Is it too much for a month? Are we giving you too much for a month?
I don't think it's too much. I think it's more maybe how we sort of pull the data and like make sure that it's sort of usable too, rather than just sort of, you know, I think some of the stuff we've, you know, making sure it's all in the same format. Otherwise, yeah, I think it's manageable though, as long as then the output is also, you know, we have some takeaway of like how many spots are we losing, what's the measurement, not just sort of a map, you know, without metrics then too, if we're spending time inputting and outputting stuff.
I mean, you know, it took me maybe like an hour to do all that stuff, and then what I think to Darius' point is, once you have the data, then instead of saying, okay, let's go back to such intersection because we feel it's going to impact this way or that way, you just keep adding data on it, you know, and then it's almost like just building on it, and we don't have to like go back and so forth.
Yeah, I think the stuff that we're getting that's in Tomas's format isn't gonna require a revisit. We're looking at your pictures and, like Linda turned in a full set and I looked through each of those and I'm like, okay, yeah, she got it. And most of them were no change.
I actually went through them and I just need to take a few more pictures that I got wrong. Went to the wrong side of the street or something, but it's almost done. I'll get that done. It's on my list.
But I guess we get to know sort of how many streets total have no change, no impact. Because I guess part of this project is that, or was the impetus that this would have a huge impact on parking. And at least in the streets I surveyed, it did seem like at every intersection we would lose 4 spots, say, but maybe not true up in the ridge or in the upper area, or say by the industrial park where there's less impact. And so maybe having that. I think the other big piece is the outreach aspect too, which we've been kind of tasked with. And how do we start advertising almost that this is coming, right? And putting up those sort of posters and ballers and getting people knowing that it's coming regardless of whether they want it or not.
The blast came out today.
Yeah.
Was it in the blast? Did anybody? I didn't have a chance to read it yet.
I haven't read it yet either. I mean, it was a while back, right? We
Yeah,
did
I think
with-
it needs to be
And
a
so-
lot more often, maybe in every blast and maybe at the top when screaming headlines or something. Because I did post AB 413 in Residents of Brisbane on Facebook. And people are surprised and people are asking questions like, is it really going to be enforced? And the only question that didn't come up was parking, which was a surprise. But I just am feeling an urgency to get people aware of it before it actually starts getting enforced.
And the blast, maybe the day in the park and those kind of places are places where, I think maybe we also need to make a flyer, make sort of some kind of piece. Maybe that's something we discuss on what works and what hasn't worked in the past and sort of how to advertise that more explicitly.
Well, staff knows all the different things that go out.
Yeah, I mean, we have a communications team and, they've done, I think it's been in the Star and the Blast and,
It's how it was in the Star.
so we
yeah.
kind of, I think, from our perspective, it makes a lot of sense to do rollouts when we're physically changing things on the ground. So again, in late June or early July, later in June, we'll slurry seal some streets. Then by the beginning of July, I'm guessing, I don't know, we gotta have a holiday in there. It'll be restriped. We'll have those barricades out. It seems like that's a good time to put that message out again. From the police department's perspective, they have warning tags that they can write, but they want to do that a month or two before they start citing, couple months, 2 or 3 months. They don't want to do that all year long. So they were kind of going to be the lead on outreach, but it seems like they want to stick to that part that's having to do with getting closer to enforcing and doing citations and warnings and citations. But yeah, maybe in terms of tracking what we're finding, can it just be like a number at each intersection, at each corner, like 0, 1, 2? I just think making a list, you guys don't need the list. It seems like excess work. It's not going to be what the contractor needs.
Not a list, maybe just a number of how many spots are given up, right? Like out of total intersections, 50% require change or something would be helpful. And then the number of how many were surveyed, I think, would be useful.
Why would it be helpful? Explain.
In terms of how many spots we're losing as a city for parking, I don't have a good measure of how many spots total there are that's been partially surveyed, but that's hard to survey. So while we're surveying already sort of a net loss of spots, maybe it's way more than we think or way less than we think, and it'd be either way.
I think it's going to be way less, actually, except maybe down
It could
in
be,
the
yeah,
main part
which
of
is good to
town.
know too. If we're not,
It's
yeah.
good to know. It's just
Yeah, I guess the stripping timeline. Sorry, the timeline for sort of the repainting and that part prior to giving notice to people and prior tickets. That's all going to align where it's all repainted prior to having notices, or is there going to be a period where there's like a mix of people expected to know that they shouldn't park there, even though there's a spot there?
Yep, I mean, I don't know why is the pushback to have a spreadsheet. We're already doing this. It's just going to add a little bit. It's going to inform us in terms of how we've done so far, how much do we need to do, and maybe do a little bit of more analysis while we're doing this. For instance, I ended up doing, I think 7 or 6 intersection that yield about 17 actual pieces of street. And from those 17, there was like 2 or 3 that had fire hydrants. So that means that, anyway, people don't park over there because there's a hydrant. So technically, you ended up losing about 15 or 14 parking spaces, something like that. So it just builds on. I mean, it's an opinion. You don't have to do it, but I think I'm usually a data geek, so it just helps to have data in case you want to go back later, and now you could use us for that.
If I may, I don't think the point here is for us to gather information for ourselves, but to do a job that's been laid out in front of us in a limited amount of time again.
I'm not saying for myself. I'm sorry to interrupt like that. I'm just saying that the value of the data. But like I said, that's just my opinion.
But we have an assignment, and we're short people, and our timing again is crunched. And I think we should just go for it and get as many done as we can personally, so that we can turn this over in time for it to be reviewed, checked, and moved on for the work to be done by the fall.
I guess follow-up question, what was the assignment that we were tasked with? Is it the outreach, is it the surveying piece that we're responsible for? So, and staff is kind of like, they're gonna do that piece regardless. What's the committee's responsibility within this piece?
Within this piece is to look at each intersection and report on the template what we're finding. And that's it. I think that's it.
So once we're done with the map, that's the completion of the project, or is there also an outreach aspect that sort of
The
drives?
outreach aspect isn't really up to us.
That was the direction from the council last time, or from the liaisons, I felt last time.
Well, they
This is a
suggested
misunderstanding.
different ways, but that kind of lands in the city's
Scope.
scope. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to put it on a social media page, it wouldn't hurt. But it's not our responsibility to put that information out there. It's the city's. We're just doing the legwork.
I guess, is that the staff's opinion as well, that surveying is sort of the main part of this project, and then once that's completed, we're sort of done with this assignment piece in terms of the work priorities as well?
I think input on how to do the outreach too. I don't see that that's not part of the, let me see, what did the minutes say? Go back to that.
I mean, if I might ask, is this a point that we could put on a vote?
I guess, not sure what we'd be voting for. I guess, yeah.
I mean, if we want to have.
I guess
like a
I'm curious for
spreadsheet
what
or-
the
I don't
definition
know.
of the scope of the project is. If it is just to map the intersections, that's a very simple, in terms of the scope, larger scope. If it's more about community outreach and getting acceptance, or not acceptance, but sort of awareness of this, that's a very different project. Yeah, in terms of the timeline for us to accomplish that in the scope of the work scope. And it seemed like this was the number one priority for, 2025 that is coming. So it seemed to me the implication was we'd be working on this for a couple of months. But, Brisbane's not that big in terms of,
It's not that big, but
if it's just mapping, yeah.
all of the street work, the physical work needs to be done before the
Not by
rainy
us, though.
season.
Yeah, that's
Not by us,
Yeah.
no, but we need to have the info out there before the city can move forward with it and try to avoid staff having to do this job.
So let me, ask a valid question. So let's say they asked us, okay, you did 300, so 300 sections. From those 300 sections, are all of them are going to be parking space losses? And how do you answer that if you're not, somewhat have a distinction between you had a yellow line there prior, or you had a fire hydrant?
I think maybe that we think it's around the parking program. I think it's maybe a separate issue than the parking. So maybe it's not as related to sort of understanding that, even though that's kind of how this was originally introduced, perhaps. Maybe.
And if you read the law, that will probably give you a lot more information about, it's street by street by street.
The
Every
law's
street.
coming separately, but we should, as a town, we should be aware of what the law impacts sort of our parking as well, if that sort of was the impetus for doing this project.
Oh, and it'll probably be really easy for us to get some feedback from staff once they get our information.
That's what
because
we're asking for,
we'll
yeah.
be noting,
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's a great point. I mean, I guess for the next meeting, if there's so much ambiguity on gathering more data on this, can we reach out to council and say, there are some thoughts that maybe we should add some more information while we're doing this exercise, and let's see how they feel.
So from the minutes, Councilmember Mackin provides background on the research that led to the creation of the bill and adds that proper communication and implementation of the bill is a top priority for the committee.
Communication.
Yeah.
Is number one though, not street measuring then. So maybe it's like public outreach and
I
having
think
sort of
implementation is that part,
that part.
right?
Yeah.
So both. But, so
What
you
did
would,
she mean by, excuse me, can you read the sentence about communication again?
shoot, I closed it.
I'm sorry. I missed something.
Yeah.
Can take me a sec. Going back. Councilmember Mackin emphasized the importance of the new Assembly bill, citing the direct impact AB 413 will have on parking conditions throughout Brisbane. She provides background on the research that led to the creation of the bill and adds that proper communication and implementation of the bill is a top priority for the committee. And I added, research should be complete by fall to ensure timely implementation.
In the context of parking, though, is the way this was also introduced. I think maybe having that piece would be good for us as well. If it's around communication, we can communicate. Part of it is around parking, part of it is around safety, part of it is around sort of the, I think safety is a key piece of why it's sort of being implemented. And maybe we should talk about how we kind of communicate and help foster that communication out to the people, because I think there has been a big reaction too.
So I think you guys, somebody had asked, will what police does be, it should be done in conjunction. I guess we can talk to them and make sure they're on the same page, but it seems like if there's a parking space marked, it seems a little bit strong to issue a warning citation when you're parked in what looks like a marked space.
But I guess at the timeline for sort of, weather, and all of a sudden we're sort of in December or January even, the spots are not marked, like for instance, on streets where they're not sidewalks and it's a resident's house. Is that gonna be marked sort of no parking here?
But
Versus,
not sidewalks,
But
What-
there's implemented a crosswalk, we talked about last time.
crosswalks.
Yeah, it's a crosswalk, but there's a parking spot in front of someone's house. Is that gonna be marked red or something, right? Which shows you should not park here, even though there's no, right now, right? That's one of the main examples.
The law doesn't require
Marking.
red.
Okay, so the cops will still issue, I guess that's part of the confusion around this piece, is will there still be tickets, or will there be sort of signage there then, or what that sort of communication is?
I don't want to raise my hand and swear that the cops will cite every day. I don't know how often and how much time they'll spend on this, but their direction is to cite it as much as they see it, or if people call it in. That's what I know. So and it doesn't need to be marked according to the law. So maybe what we want to do next meeting is send out and bring up on screen what outreach has been done and see what
We can do more.
we think should be
Mhm.
improved, expanded, whatever, because there's been some already. I thought it was pretty decent, but, we didn't, it kind of came up. We were doing this overlay and we're like, oh, we should not put these parking spaces back because they have to go away anyways. We have new pavement there. So we did it. We made a sign, we put them out there. We kind of just rushed together something, and there wasn't a lot of time to get your guys' input. So that seems like a good step for the committee, is to look at what we already did in that rush and see how we can make it better.
Maybe one other thing would be helpful to review some of our examples of like tough and weird examples. I think you guys gave feedback, via email, but maybe as a committee we can kind of go through some of those, because I had a couple where, I was more like, I'm not sure what would happen here, and sort of knowing what would be the policy and or the action would be sort of helpful, I think, for me to help communicate that as well.
That's great. That's a great point, because I'm actually, when I did mine, there's two of them that pops up. There's one on Monterey Street and Visitation Avenue, and it's right there. And he truncate, and he gets into the Eagles parking lot. And then there's another one where you're going up Lozano that gets into a person's driveway. But I guess, so if it's a driveway, they could, that wouldn't have an impact, right? Because but that person cannot park in that area. But let's say the Eagles example, where you got Monterey and Visitation, and then you have their parking space over there. And actually, one of those is a handicap.
Or I guess this, like in this example, that would not be marked? There'd be no signage there. The expectation would be that that car should know not to park there in the future.
That's my car.
Oh, that's your car. So you would know not to park there in the future. That would be the expectation by the state or by
I
the,
would think so, yeah.
and that would be ticketed by the rules as they now stand.
That is Humboldt approaching Annis. Okay, so this is up. If you go, turn right on Annis off of San Bruno, it's a weird little
That little quick dip.
street that goes up. And it's.
Like the
it's-
1100
It's white
block.
lined right up to the sidewalk, there's not the side, the curb rather, and on the other side where my car is, there's a retaining wall, and it's white lined right up to that retaining wall. So those already are not parking places.
Incriminating yourself with that photo then. You're incriminating yourself with that photo. You're parking in a non-parking spot.
Oh, I went the
But in
wrong
that case,
way on a
the- yeah.
one-way street. I
In
wasn't
that case, that's
thinking.
not a spot. But is there maybe? I think I had a couple examples where it was like a person's driveway or something like that, where it was unclear and kind of and maybe Christian's example is another good one, where it's kind of ambiguous, not already marked.
Well, people don't necessarily park in front of someone's driveway anyway.
Not driveway to their house. I have a good example where it's like an unmarked intersection, but it's just one person's front yard essentially. And so I'm curious if we like paint the strip where you can't park there anymore, and
Yeah, they would have to.
but they're not painting it.
The majority are straightforward, but you're gonna have those unusual suspect
There's
that
no white line currently, so maybe we can
Just-
paint a white line there. Yeah.
I don't know.
But
Do
that's the
we
case
need
that
to
would be-
worry about
Maybe
them, or
just
that's
talk
gonna
at
be
once, one at a time, please.
Okay.
Not all at once. It's a good question. There's a possibility to put a white edge line, is what Linda was describing, and at the lip of gutter, so the end of the concrete, you got a curb and then you got a gutter, so it could be at the lip of the gutter. We looked at some before we handed the assignment off, and we found weird ones too. And there might be some ambiguity, and people might be able to appeal a site. I don't know. They say, wow, I had no idea. I didn't understand the law one time, but then there's a record, so they don't do it again. That part is not my area of expertise. So, Christian, you thought this one was a strange one? Do you want to?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so this one I actually did already put into the template. When I went back and filled them out. And yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's not a typical curb or sidewalk. It's a driveway right there. But in this case, because it's, I mean, I don't want to speak if I don't know, but what do you think? Yeah, you can't park there anyway. So I think in this situation, it kind of lucks out because there wouldn't be parking allowed regardless there anyways because of those parking spots that are part of the building rather than part of the street. So I think in that situation, there just wouldn't be parking there regardless. So that one's kind of a freebie, if you will.
Got it. So when the vehicle is inside, let's say the property line, then it's not an issue then. Okay.
Right.
'Cause it's not blocking anything there.
Yeah, this is a unique example. I can't think of a lot of other instances like this one, but yeah, this one.
The driveway one is interesting, and we did go out with Commander Garcia, and I have understood in practice that some people park a car in their driveway and park a car on the street across their driveway because it's their driveway, so no one else is going to complain about it. But the commander told us it's illegal to park that way. And
They don't
so,
own the sidewalk.
huh?
They don't own the sidewalk.
Well, but even if it's not on the sidewalk and it's on the street, it's still illegal.
Yeah,
Even
That
if it's
would
your
make
own
sense.
driveway. So if that were at an intersection, such as where you live and it's unmarked, that's citable.
I guess, yeah. Do you mind taking a look at the Google Maps for Alvarado at Monterey? I'm curious because that's an area where I think you would lose quite a bit of parking, but I think communication might be key. Yeah, at Alvarado there, if you do street view right on, I think one block up, closer to the park where you are right now. one block further, closer to the park. Yeah, that way. That intersection there on Street View, because there's basically no, it's two unmarked intersections leading into someone's driveway there. That green little strip is like a, front yard. And so you essentially have to get rid of those white lines there on the right-hand side of the figure there, yeah. So that crosswalk now goes from where that cut-in is to the person's driveway. But that person then loses essentially, the driving, or to the right then, yep. If you flip to looking to the right, yep, right there, exactly. Keep looking, yep, turning, yep. So where that car is in the driveway now, that's a crosswalk. So the spot to the right there gets removed, right? Because that cut-in. And so I guess, does that cut-in line right now on the across the crosswalk at the approach side gets cut back? And since the driveway kind of blocks part of that, I'm assuming where that Volkswagen is would also get painted back now. Or does it get repainted, or what's the sort of process there to mark that that's no longer a spot?
We're gonna grind off the white and make a 90-degree angle and then
Similar there,
bring
okay.
it back out.
And that's what, okay. So that'll happen before, or sometime before, that's all planned, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like what you see on the other side.
With the private driveway there. So
Yeah.
driveways were part of the spacing then, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is also another weird one, so I'm glad we're looking at these. But
I mean, so if it's a driveway, then the person, it's okay if he has the car in the driveway and it's not on the outside the sidewalk on the street.
Right.
Okay.
or like just to be clear, I mean this is actually an easy one, but just to make it clear, right here, this
Also done.
approach, just bring back that striping.
Yep.
20 feet, and yeah, just it can't hurt to have more examples and more clarity. But yeah.
And that one you do 15 or 20?
Yeah, 20.
20.
Yeah, unless we haven't had you guys say you see any case where it should be different, but if, there are tick marks and it's gonna cut into the next space 3 feet and make it not big enough, that could be a recommendation, like, let's make this one 17 instead of 20, because then you don't lose another whole space. I don't think anybody's come across that yet, but the law allows for it. The council would have to decide that, but it allows for those minor modifications.
Well, that's a good point because, I mean, I was thinking to myself, 10 feet is plenty enough in terms of not
No,
blocking.
we're not doing 10 feet all over town. It's got to be case by case. I mean, we can read the law too, but we're not changing it. No, there's no way.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing is that the committee would like to know how many spaces we're losing, which I'd prefer to see on a map or tallied or just totaled for you versus, I think it's a little painstaking to type out every approach to every intersection and say 0 or.
I don't think anyone wants that, yeah. I think
Right.
it's just general number would be interesting.
and-
Not even mandatory. just
And
interesting.
then at the next meeting, we'll look at the outreach that was done and get feedback on what you guys think would be helpful and make it better going forward. And then maybe back into what the police plan to do, although, like I said, I think it makes sense that once we change the striping, then that's when they should be hitting people with those warning citations, which is just a warning before the start of the year.
I think that sounds right. That hits all the things I had thought about there. Anything else?
Yeah, I want to request that whatever new assignments we're going to be getting, we can get as soon as possible, because I'm done. I have nothing but time to work on this. So if you'd like me to start in the Ridge, I can do that.
Yeah, I think that would kind of, really start bringing it all together once we expand to the Ridge, since Central Brisbane's wrapping up. So yeah, I'll do that soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll email you guys. I'll update you on the progress that would have been shown if we had gotten all the submissions for this month, and then just kind of just know how where we're at and where we're going to be once we assign these new zones as well.
I guess after that, do you think we'd be able to complete in another month, say, all the zones, or are there many more outstanding zones beyond that, assuming that, say, we complete the ones we're assigned plus an equal amount assigned for the next month?
Why don't you and I, Tomas, take a little time to kind of look at those other weird outlying areas in town and see if there's very many, like Badian Tunnel. There might be a few up around the industrial area. You know, there are other parts of town, not a ton of parking. I don't think there's much or any on Bay Shore, but we should kind of look at those and see if,
So then I guess if we miss something and it doesn't get painted, that would then become sort of a complaint basis in the future sometime, or it would kind of get, you know, or is there still a process beyond that for an extra screen, a final check, say?
I mean, yeah, that could happen. We're all people.
I wasn't sure there's a secondary sort of sweep through town or something else, yeah.
I mean, I would think the police would probably tell us.
Yeah, it's going to be law whether we
Like
look
or
at
not,
it or
yeah.
not.
I think it's very clear to me in terms of next steps and sort of what could happen between now and the next meeting and the accomplishments we can, you know, sort of get done by then. Any other questions or comments on that side from the committee?
No, thank you.
Maybe on the template, I mean, we can tally the numbers in whatever, on a map or however we choose, but on the template, I can also, just so it's on everyone's mind, to always make sure to grab it also. Just add a column that says parking spaces lost at this intersection. So then it's, you guys don't forget to get it, and then we'll make sure we're getting them all as well.
Looks like a swimming pool.
Yeah, it's the future. That's what's gonna happen.
Very funny.
We don't have to do across there. Is part of the sort of across Bayshore also part of the or is that no longer part of town? Sort of, yeah. Is that area like, I guess, what is the beyond sort of central and industrial area, the marina versus say the Baylands? Is that also part of the purview
Yeah.
of surveying as well? In addition to obviously it's striping, but most of that probably would not be too many intersections, but just making sure that's part of the purview then as well.
Yeah, everything in the city limits. So
All right. So it may take us maybe 2 more assignments, but perhaps we can do that throughout via email as well regarding the assignments.
Sorry, I opened up a lot of tabs in my search. I'm forgetting where I put it. I'll just go find it again. Let's go. Complete streams. They can see how we do it all.
Alrighty, so I guess unless there's any more comments or sort of feedback on this portion of old business from the committee or from staff, I guess I'll close out old business and we move on to new business. Is there any new business?
no new business.
No new business. Okay, moving on to staff updates then. Any staff updates?
So we already touched on it a little bit, but the slurry seal is going to start the week of June 19th, so that's coming up. That's tentatively when the plan for that schedule to start is, and so that'll be. And then, like we've talked about, we'll be addressing those AB 413 striping changes already. I think we should probably talk about the work plan because we talked about it a lot at the last meeting with the liaisons, and probably be a good time to touch on it and circle back on it again. So pull that up real quick.
Mm-hmm. And this is the revised version following their feedback then.
Yeah, this is what we took away from last meeting, and they did scratch a lot of things, and then there also was some interpreting. We weren't putting pen to paper about what was changing, but why isn't this? One second here. What did I do? Too much. Classic. There we go. I'm afraid to mess with it now. Let's see if I can. Okay, cool. So, of course, study AB 413, implications, compile research. There was a lot of, I think everyone was in agreement, staff and the liaisons, that the potential for one-way streets is still, should be second on that list. We had a lot of issues covering bike, traffic calmings, just speeding generally, and rather than have a bunch of points, we listed that into number 3. Transportation plan for Sierra Point, that one was, it remained on the list, but at the same time, there wasn't much in the work set. There wasn't a lot of development going on as far as what we're going to do out there. Receiving comment on the Baylands transportation circulation plans, kind of similar to number 4 as far as what the next steps would be or the progress is there. And then investigate possible improvements to parking and the impact of Bayshore Boulevard on the general conditions of the mobile home park.
Any comments, feedback, thoughts?
So I thought we'd talk a little bit about bicycle or bike riding, friendly.
Yeah, I think that was kind of considered with number 3, just traffic calming measures, general traffic issues as far as biking.
And then is that AB 43 or should that be, that's not AB 413, it's 43, which is different.
That was the one that allows in a commercial zone,
The speeding
yeah.
changes. Got it.
Did we get this in our email?
I want to say I did send it, yeah. Yeah. So. But I guess any comments? You guys have anything that maybe you were thinking during that meeting or about the work plan in general? I mean, do we feel good about it?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, point number 3 is it's pretty broad. So I'm not. I guess one question would be. So we need to, finish the what we're doing now to get into this. But at that point, these are going to be broken down, right?
Yeah, I would think about it if once we get to that issue that it would kind of be a topic. Okay, so where is the priority? Right now it is broad, yeah, and it maybe, but because there's been so many different areas of town thrown out. But I would imagine that once we do that, it would say we would start actually pinning down locations rather than tackling, just Brisbane as a citywide as a whole.
Because I think one street that has brought a lot of attention, and I'm surprised it's not here, but maybe is in number 3. It's San Bruno, and the how people are not. There's something with that stop sign or something that they just keep rolling.
Maybe that's part of 3, but maybe more defined as we go toward that step. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe, I don't know that I watched part of the meeting back when we redrafted this list, but I had a recollection that we talked about coming up with a menu of traffic calming and having you guys kind of give input on which ones you thought worked better. And then I know that Councilmember Mackin suggested that we kind of publicize when we're working on this and ask the public to come and bring their concerns, just to be a location where people could come and bring their concerns, or I guess Zoom in if we're allowed to have hybrid meetings.
So like the town hall traffic committee she had brought up, yeah. Linda, any comments or general thoughts other than sort of alignment?
No, I'm looking forward to working on it.
Yeah, me too, I think. And number 2, I think, is one we've touched on before, and sort of getting the scope and also defining whether it's sort of a, investigate and watch for, say, a couple hours and then kind of recommend based on that, or what sort of more needs to be done there would be good to know. And then 3 is a big beast, but, I think we'll get guidance as we kind of build toward that in the next couple weeks.
I mean, for number 2, it'll be interesting to have the technical, read out just on front, and then we go do the investigative work. And maybe not sure if Pat did save his work. He did some preliminary work on this one. But probably
I think it's
because
in
of
here,
the
yeah.
pandemic, it's probably irrelevant now.
I'm pretty sure I worked with Pat on that.
That was my first project, I think, as well. I surveyed the street a little bit. Maybe it was only 2 hours, but maybe there's some data in terms of how many
Yeah.
turns. We had a nice form, too. in
I
terms of how
don't
many turns
remember,
or-
and I don't know if I kept it, but I will look for it.
Yeah, what he did, I think he emailed to us.
Yeah, I think it should be in this directory. There's a lot. All the old stuff is here, so I think it'll be here.
Perhaps that's also worth reviewing
Look
at the
for it.
next meeting then, or maybe the meeting after, once we sort of get closer to that.
Yeah, we just wanted to bring this up and make sure everyone was on the same page, because we had the discussion, but we didn't document it at the last meeting, so
Yeah.
here it is.
I have to agree. Number 3 is, it's like a big net with a lot of stuff in it, and so we can probably spend some time on that. Probably a lot of time with all the different issues that come under traffic calming and general issues. So it's a good one.
Yeah, it's been interesting because there's always in the past couple of years there's been a huge assignment that kind of takes the forefront. And first it was the parking permit program, and now it's currently AB 413. But it's still good to have this list so we forget what's remember what so we don't forget what's important here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good list.
Alrighty, fine. Then review the draft plan then. I guess any other staff updates then?
My other committee asks oftentimes about the Baylands and when the specific plan is going to be released, because they, have the concerns about open space and ecology relative to it. And I did hear at that meeting, not that I was told directly, that the developer is looking at the fall. So that could be something that comes out that has review potential. Like, many other deadlines that they've suggested have been missed, so I'm not promising that it's gonna be then, but that's what I'm hearing, is that they may be sometime in the fall have that draft specific plan.
Hey, Chris, I see your raised hand. I'll get you in a second. I just have a couple more staff updates, quick ones. Today we got some quotes to replace some signs, some just, really simple project. Just there's a couple of faded stop signs around town. I think there's a few there's one at the 5-point intersection, and also just, in other areas around town that it's just like the signs are almost yellow, so we're gonna change those. And some of them are undersized. So the standard is 30 by 30 inches, and now and a lot of the old ones are 24 by 24. So we're going to be upgrading those. We just got the quote from the contractor today, so we're going to be assigning the job to them. And then if you guys remember the local road safety plan, that's actually getting adopted by CCAG, and which in turn requires adoption from a local agency. So, and just to kind of refresh you guys on the local road safety plan, you guys and members of the community provided input about what locations they feel are important, and then the consultant Kittleson for the local road safety plan studied the city, studied our traffic data, and then they prioritized 2 locations. And essentially, this plan, what it's useful for is helping us pursue grants in the future, because the Safe Streets for All federal grant requires that an agency has a local road safety plan to be eligible for that grant. So now that we're going to adopt this plan, we can be competitive and trying to go for a grant that is known as the Safe Streets for All grant, which you guys might have heard about before. And that's all I got.
Okay.
I have one more, because I've been taking more of the lead on this Crocker Trail. If any of you walk it, we now have got the original contractor under contract to make some repairs. So in a couple of places where we had quite a bit of erosion, we're gonna put some concrete right there. And then in other cases, we're just gonna define the drainage on the shoulders a little bit better, so that the water doesn't, make that new resurfacing material ravel off. And hopefully it's enough. You never know. The next storm could be bigger, and we could have different problems, but that's gonna happen in the next few, I keep saying the next few weeks, but now they have, their purchase orders to go and do that work. We wanted to wait until it was done raining because we would have damaged the existing surface if it was saturated. So now we're definitely at the time that this can happen.
Thank you.
I'm seeing Chris. I'm going to promote you to panelist now, and then you should be able to speak. This is as good a time as any. So, promote, and then you should, if you unmute, you should be good.
Yeah, I was waiting for a public comment on the topics, but it didn't come up. So, couple things. So the work plan, as I mentioned during that meeting with Cunningham and
Mackin.
Sorry, getting Tom Mackin. Thank you. Last name. I had made a comment at that meeting that I thought that at the condition that it was in, that work plan was a little too big. I still strongly feel that. And as Christian pointed out, there's no reference to bikes as an example. It would be, I don't know what the process is, but it seems to me that we're missing a deliverable for most of those. And as we saw earlier today in the meeting, that could result in a confusion and disagreement about what we're supposed to be achieving. And I would like to find out if that work plan is available. I know you're looking for a new member of the committee. It would be helpful to know what work the committee is going to be working on, and that might entice someone to join in and participate. Earlier today, I had sent staff 2 emails. One, there is an e-bike seminar for people like our committee members and other members of staff. It's for the city government, as well as the public, on e-bikes and how they can contribute to your sustainability goals. I also sent an email with an example of a daylighting video that we might be able to either mimic or just simply use in its current state. That, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I'll definitely be distributing these to the committee, Chris. I saw your email, and I guess I was, when the discussions took over, I wasn't sure when the right time would be to mention these, but I'll definitely forward these along to other public works staff and also the Complete Streets Committee. So then, yeah, so like she said, we have this, I don't want to misquote it. It's it's about e-bikes, EVs, and miles traveled. It's a webinar. It's open to people in the working for public agencies or members of the public. And then just an additional video on daylighting, and just kind of maybe see what other agencies are doing, or familiar ourselves with, or become even more familiar with the study we're doing. So thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. There was one more thing.
Sure.
If anybody on the committee is interested, I have a proposal for that 5-point intersection visitation, Old County Road, etc. And I would love to be able to talk to somebody about it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Yeah, we can explore that. You and I can exchange a few emails and see think about the best way to do that. All right. No more members of the public.
Any other staff updates?
Is it okay if I ask the staff? Do you guys know what's going on Bayshore? I mean, they're being under construction for quite some time, and is it they dig, they cover, they dig, they cover? Is this like PG&E or internet companies that are routing wires under? I mean, it's been going on for quite some time, and it just seems like repetitive, and a lot of it is excavation, and so just want to have a sense. And usually sometimes I get like flyers, and they tell us more or less what's going on, but lately I haven't gotten any, and it's just the hammers and all that. I mean, I already have a lot of noise in my shop, but and it's just a lot of stuff going on there.
Neither of us are directly involved in issuing permits, but we are aware that there are at least two separate fiber optic construction projects happening. One is, for internet fiber optic. The other is put together by CCAG. Drawing a blank on the name of it, but it has to do with directing traffic if there's a bad incident on 101 onto frontage roads, basically. So they're gonna put up, I don't know that much about it. And Connected Communities, I am blanking out on the name of it. No. Yeah, so they are actually upgrading our traffic signal controllers, and they're gonna have notifications, and it's gonna divert some traffic if there's an incident on 101. So it's going all up and down the peninsula, basically, in San Mateo County. We're getting some local benefit from it, other than getting that traffic. It's not really a local benefit. And then the developer is at the old VWR's Van Waters and Rogers Road site, doing improvements there, and they're doing some signal improvements off and on, but they haven't been able to work because these other projects are closing lanes. The work, if you've gone, I don't go north on the frontage, south on the frontage as much, but it went through San Francisco as well, and it's kind of marching its way south. Yeah, you could call into Public Works in terms of how long their permit is for, or if you want any more specifics, because we're not, like I said, we're not directly involved.
Thanks for your feedback.
Thanks. Any other chair or committee matters?
I don't have any.
So I guess maybe I use this section for or time slot to talk a little bit about the outreach that I guess two things: the outreach to get new members. If you guys have any status, do we have people applying or don't, or we don't? We don't know how the process is. And then in general, one suggestions I have is like Gregory and Pat. They put a lot of time. And Pat was in this committee for a long time. It was mentioned that we were going to give them like a formal letter, and I know that we circulated some e-cards. But I think in addition to that, if they could, sort of do a little piece on the committee as a whole, and really thanks about the members that are leaving, and thank for them putting their time. I think that would, first of all, appreciate, these people, Pat and Gregory volunteer time, and at the same time, it would be good, for the community to see, who participated, and know a little bit about those members, and then that might encourage them to apply.
Regarding new members, we did get 2 applications in the nick of time because I think the deadline was today for accepting new members. So from what I understand, applications. Yeah, they really don't come to us. The applications, it's decided by the city council. But so we have 2 of those applications. I think from what I understand, it takes a couple of months to onboard them. I'm not 100% sure on that, but okay, yeah. So there's a process I'm not aware of, but they're interviewed, and I guess it takes a bit of time. But yeah, so that we have 2 applications, and that's pending.
I guess, is there a protocol for minimum number of members that we have to have, or like what happens if
I asked the city attorney that because we have 3 right now. I was like, can we even meet? And he said, if your minimum number is 5, if 3 come to a meeting, you have a quorum. That's how they're gonna. That's his determination of that, even though we don't technically have 5 members right now. So we can meet as long as there are all 3 of you coming to a meeting. And I know it came up at the last meeting about thanking the 2 committee members that have stepped down. So that's why I came up with the card, because it seemed easier than getting a physical card and bringing it in. They may be watching now, they know, and it's not gonna be a surprise. But if you guys want to initiate something else or you have another idea, it's not gonna affect the recruitment this time because the other piece that communications did was to republish the profile of Linda and her involvement.
Saw that? Very nice. Yeah.
That was to be kind
Yeah,
of a
that's good.
recruitment tool. So
Is-
if you guys want something else,
So how long was the slot open? I guess what is the typical process? Is it like, if we lose someone, there's a new slot that gets open, or is it only under a certain time period when there's already a sort of a cycle?
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a problem. I staff 2 committees and it takes a long time because they open a recruitment. It's been hard to get people to join. I understand there is a new state bill passing through the assembly about allowing non-decision-making bodies, which are like these committees that make recommendations to council, to meet remotely so that people that can't get down here or have daycare or have limitations can participate more. I don't know if and when that will pass, but I think it's recognized that it's hard to get people onto committees, but from the city clerk's position, each time one position opens, they don't want to do a whole process because what it takes is outreach, opening those applications, receiving them, coordinating an extra time for the council to meet, to interview. And I don't know if I think maybe everyone does versus a subcommittee. I'm not even really sure. They have to set that up, but beyond the council's existing schedule. And then, once those members are chosen, they have to, swear them in and they want to onboard that it has to be a resolution or an action that the council takes at a regular meeting. So if it closed today, it probably takes 2 months to get those people on. So I think the city clerk doesn't want to be continuously doing that. Typically, when terms expire, they open. So if your term expired but you wanted to continue, they're still going to open that and take applications. The council's going to interview. Linda's shaking her head. You may have some experience that you can add after I say what I'm going to say. I don't know if they re-interview existing members or not, but they definitely look at the other applicants and they choose how to fill a committee. And they've occasionally not continued someone that's been an existing member.
I re-interviewed once, I think. Yeah.
So for each 4-year term, so that's
Yeah.
maybe or
I can't
the
remember.
well, when we formed, we gave people different length of term so that everyone didn't come up at the same cycle. I don't know if that had to do with it or.
And then pandemic times also.
Yeah, I mean, when, I think when I joined in, it was because somebody left early. And then when that person's term came up, I had to sort of reapply and I was re-interviewed. And I think there was a swear ceremony or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, in general, I think, so for, let's say we do get new members, we could probably send out, a communication of all the members, talk a little bit about them, and then the different mechanics of what we're doing in general. That will keep the community engaged of like what street safety community does, and some of the important work and highlights of what we have accomplished as a group.
I talked to the city manager who is outgoing, as you know, and maybe the new one has a different thought, but now that we have a work plan, and I don't remember what he said, because at one point, the full council did want to approve our work plan officially. But we know that the liaisons are a lot more engaged than the other council members, so I don't know if I don't remember what he said, if he wanted a council action to adopt this work plan or not, which is kind of silly to call it 2024 and we do it in July or whenever late in the year. But we have at times done a report of accomplishments. I think it started with maybe Park and Rec Commission or maybe OSEC. But when we've worked on just parking, it wasn't really, now there's something to report. We're rolling out a program but there was a year or two there, we were just doing that, and it would have been kind of weird to report on the middle of that project, I think. But yeah, there are various ways to get that word out more.
Yeah, I mean that, like Chris says, people might be driven just to be part of a team member, that they see different teams and they feel that it's dynamic and they want to engage with them. Or some of them might just be driven by the agenda, right? But overall, recognition is important. And especially, like Pat, how long was Pat in the committee? Like 10 years or something like that? Or close to 10 years? So it's been
I'm
about
gonna-
6. And
yeah,
he
maybe
was here before me.
Five-ish.
Linda's 11, right? Were you an original?
Not 1 year later.
Oh, okay, so you're
So
10.
Okay, well, being about, 5, and Pat was already here. But anyway, yeah, it's, either way, it's a long time.
Yeah. Thank us again to Pat and Greg again. Yeah. We should do something. Yeah. Is there anything else in terms of other matters from the committee then?
I have nothing.
No, that's it for
Yeah.
me.
I guess I see on the agenda the next meeting is July 3rd. Is that accurate given I'm not sure if that's a holiday. Will we, the three of us, be here? I guess we can figure that offline too, but I just want to make sure that sort of is,
I will be here.
yeah, I will also be in town July 3rd, making sure that we don't, July 3rd is the following meeting, and so just in case that since July 4th is a commonly
Holiday.
traveled holiday.
Right. That's
making
the
sure.
first Wednesday, and the
Yeah.
4th is the holiday, so,
Yeah, I guess
Up
the
to you
4th
guys.
is the official holiday, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I will let you guys know.
I wonder if it'll be celebrated on a weekend, because it is like that Monday, how they change dates around and sometimes celebrated on that Monday.
In terms of like a work holiday, the 4th is the holiday. In terms of
Yeah.
fireworks, I bet they're on
Yeah.
the
On
4th.
the 3rd usually, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, in that
On the-
case,
Not the 3rd.
I guess in that case, unless Christian, you have another comment? Or?
No.
Yeah, in that case, the next meeting will be July 3rd, 2024, and I guess this meeting is now called to an end at 7:42.
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.